He is shocked, shouting in disbelief as he sees Kiki thrust her spear into the wounded man. His face twists with confusion and fear, questioning her actions and unable to accept that someone who could still be saved was instead killed. His emotions boil over as he tries to stop her, convinced that the chance of survival has been crushed. Meanwhile, Kiki remains eerily calm, as if her decision was absolute, highlighting the stark contrast in how they each perceive this world. After stabbing the dying man, she remains calm despite the protests of him watching in shock. She argues that even if the victim survived his injuries, the outcome would be the same. He would return anyway. Her words leave him stunned, unable to grasp her meaning. With firm conviction, Kiki declares that they will use this, as if she understands the rules of this strange world far better than he does. Kiki, who had just impaled the injured man, now calmly pours fresh blood into her mouth and drinks it as if it were completely normal. Her face appears serene, almost as if she is savoring it, while him watch in utter shock and fear. He was struck speechless, horrified by the gruesome sight before him. Kiki, without hesitation, tore into the flesh of the dying victim and calmly devoured it. Fear and disgust overwhelmed him, making his body tremble violently. He stammered in disbelief, unable to accept what he had just witnessed, that she was eating a human. Meanwhile, Kiki remained composed, her face cold, as if such cruelty was nothing unusual for her, amplifying the chilling atmosphere. Calmly, Kiki tells him that he probably doesn't know, so she explains. In this world, there is no food or water. The only option for survival is to eat humans. Her words strike him with terror, making him question whether this horrifying truth is real. His mind reels as he recalls the strange nature of this afterlife-like world, wondering if human flesh is truly the only source of sustenance. Meanwhile, with an indifferent expression, Kiki calls out to the old man beside her, asking him to help break apart the body so they can eat it. He is still in shock, unable to accept the horrifying reality before him. He refuses to believe that cannibalism is the only way to survive in this world. His face is filled with terror and despair, covering his eyes as if to deny the truth. Meanwhile, Kiki and the old man calmly dissect the victim's body, treating it as if it were a normal routine for survival. He mutters that this is far too much. He can no longer bring himself to follow the two companions after witnessing them treat human bodies as food. Paralyzed by fear and confusion, he hesitates. She calmly explains the secret of this strange world. She reveals that their bodies here are not true human flesh, but rather soul vessels created by the mysterious flowers at the starting area. The roots of these flowers generate new bodies underground, so even if they die, their form can be recreated countless times. In other words, their bodies are more like vegetables than actual meat. This explanation confirms that, as long as a soul remains, new bodies will continue to form, allowing them to be brought back to life many times over. This revelation shakes him to the core, forcing him to realize the world he inhabits operates under rules vastly different from the human world. Yet this explanation raises a new dilemma. Hunger remains real, and survival requires consuming these artificial bodies as though they were nothing more than food. He tries to follow them, but his mind is consumed by fear and relentless questions. A dilemma surfaces within him. Can he really do the same thing they do? His eyes fix on the lifeless body on the ground, while his stomach growls loudly, demanding sustenance. He grows increasingly frantic as his stomach begins to growl uncontrollably, despite his desperate attempts to resist the horrifying truth he has just learned. Clutching his abdomen, he screams for the hunger to stop, refusing to become like the others who consume human flesh to survive. Meanwhile, by the campfire, the Kiki and the old man calmly enjoy their gruesome meal, as if such scenes are an ordinary routine in this twisted world. He finally manages to catch up with the strange group he's been following. His breath is ragged, his body trembling under the grip of hunger. He shouts desperately, trying to convince himself he can endure. Yet the loud growl of his stomach reveals the truth. His body is already at its limit. His eyes widened, torn between fear and the unbearable hunger gnawing inside him. He stared at the bowl, cold sweat dripping down his face, his heart pounding violently. Disgust clashed with the primal urge to survive. The old man's gaze was piercing, as if testing whether the one before him was strong enough to swallow the bitter truth that the only way to keep living was to accept what was being offered. A bowl filled with severed human parts floating in dark liquid was offered to him. Fear and disgust mixed with the unbearable hunger inside him. He stared blankly, realizing that in this world, food was nothing more than human remains considered precious. His breath came in ragged gasps, sweat dripping, and his hands trembled violently as he tried to lift the food to his mouth. Yet each time he nearly touched it, doubt struck him, halting his hand mid-air. He stared at the food for a long moment, as if waging war within himself, while in the distance, the other two calmly sat near the campfire. The sharp gaze of the young girl followed his every movement, as though waiting for the decision that would shape his fate. Suddenly, he jolted as a sharp weapon struck the ground near him, a stark warning that hesitation was no longer an option. Kiki stared at him coldly, reminding him that if he wished to survive and continue his climb toward the peak, there was only one path: to swallow his fear and consume the food. Otherwise, he would have to surrender, choose another path, and abandon his hopes entirely. In front of him, a bowl filled with grotesque pieces of flesh stood as his only option for survival. Yet as his eyes shifted toward the sword beside him, another path emerged. The path to end it all. She said, if he died, his hunger would vanish forever. With shaking hands, he raised the blade, caught between despair and the desperate desire to escape the torment that consumed him. In despair, he revealed that he had a daughter in high school, around the same age as her before him. He confessed that the person who killed him was also going to target his daughter, and the only reason he had been fighting to return to life was to save her. With trembling hands, he stared at the bowl of food offered to him. Sweat streamed down his face, but his eyes burned with growing determination. Inside him, the conflict between disgust and the will to survive reached its peak. Though his body was battered and fearful, his mind focused on a greater purpose. He gripped the bowl tightly, knowing that the decision he made now would decide whether he endured or surrendered to fate. Kiki, watching closely, was shocked by his action, while the thick liquid dripped from his mouth, proving he had truly consumed it despite the torment. With burning determination, he finally swallowed the disgusting food, even though it tasted like soil. Tears streamed down his face, not only from the repulsion but also from the vow he clung to deep within his heart. He remembered his daughter whom he had to protect, and that conviction kept him from giving up despite the unbearable suffering. He desperately tried to swallow the disgusting food given to him. Yet the unbearable nausea forced him to vomit under the tree, his breath ragged and his eyes filled with despair. Deep within, however, his resolve still burned. He vowed to do whatever it took to protect his daughter, even as his body rejected the bitter reality. Meanwhile, Kiki, watching him, gazed with conflicted eyes, as if trying to grasp the meaning of a father's struggle, enduring torment for the sake of his child. In the silence of the forest, only the determination of a father echoed louder than his pain.